Shortly past the dawn of the second millennium, on an autumn day, a moratorium was declared on a way of life that seemed immortal. A new enemy presented its apprehensive face with a new brand of artillery, weaponry that could mar the existence of anyone, anywhere, so altering the course of daily living forever. The latest victim is awaiting diagnosis, awaiting the effect this plague has had on him and the world around him. The world that in a single breath became the realm of never.
Amanda Goddard?
Yes.
Dr. Beverly Mathias, Institute of Health. This is Wyndham, my assistant. Myles Goddard is your...
My nephew. This isn't going to figure against us, is it?
I'm going to need to ask you some questions.
Dr. Mathias, excuse me. 7 new cases are being reported from the capital. Spores were found in a bin outside by the Postmaster General.
Liresept? Do they know the strain?
Victims from Senator Redfield's office are being flown to the compound as we speak.
Senator Redfield. It's in another senator's office.
Now, from what I understand, your nephew was an intern?
Yes, for Senator McGinley. I'm still not sure what happened. Miles opened an envelope. There was this white powder.
It was direct exposure. At the moment, he's in confinement.
You're not going to keep him there?
Myles Goddard, yes. Intern for Senator McGinley. The colonel wants an interrogation stat.
Mrs. Goddard, when did the symptoms begin?
As far as I could tell, there were no symptoms.
Additional medical staffing is being sent to the compound to accommodate the influx. Surgeon General maintains there's no need for panic.
No need for panic? The numbers are going up by the minute, and you're telling us there's no need for panic?
It isn't going to help matters, Mrs. Goddard.
It was the probe that caught the symptoms, Doctor. Not Mrs. Goddard. By route of the domestic surveillance cameras.
It's still very hard for me, getting used to the idea that there are cameras in our homes.
What you have to keep in mind, Mrs. Goddard, is the objective. The government has exhausted nearly all of its resources in the combat of this new war. That's why these restrictions have been imposed. You understand that?
Oh, I'm not objecting to giving up some of our freedoms, even our most basic freedoms.
Which we've all had to do.
As long as it ensures the safety and well-being of everyone and helps the cause in the long run.
Which it will.
I'm just terrified of the repercussions. If Miles were to test positive for the disease.
24 of the employees at the Capitol have shown antibodies for the Liresept bacterium. They're here, and they're being treated with antibiotics. They're expected to make a full recovery.
But what about that strain, the deadly strain that we've been hearing about?
There's that risk, yes. But it's small. That's why we have to do a test.
But what if...
Oh, before you jump to any conclusions, I want you to stay calm until we're sure of what we're dealing with.
Doctor, we have to go.
Mrs. Goddard, we're going to do the test right now. As soon as we have more information, we'll talk further.
Thank you.
You'll have to excuse us.
Only a month ago, maybe a helicopter a day would pass. Then it went to 3, then 5, every hour. But it's all for our protection. All for our protection.
Liresept. Strain 51.
That's what I was afraid of. The PET scan and the encephalogram concur. What we're looking at is an attack of the frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex, impairing cognitive function in its unique way. If it's consistent with the other cases, there'll be some disorientation and a gradual return of neurological impulses, and he'll begin to speak. What he says will determine the diagnosis and the steps that have to be taken from there. At any rate, I don't think any more time should be wasted. Notify the colonel and tell him we're about to begin the interrogation of our latest victim, Myles Goddard.
Are people working? Are they using public transportation? Are they allowed to drive again?
We've been encouraged to maintain as normal a life as possible. I'm going to listen to your lungs. Breathe in. Breathe deeply. Lungs are clear.
Myles, are you aware of why you've been brought here?
You've tested positive with strain 51 of the Liresept bacterium.
Are you aware of what that is, Myles?
It's a biological agent put randomly into the public.
The new enemy. The new war.
You're aware. You're aware of the changes that have occurred in a short period of time. Myles, we're planning on treating you for the bacterium.
There's a rationed supply of antibiotic.
Without treatment, the bacterium will spread. It can be fatal.
I want to see my Aunt Amy. She's here, isn't she? I just want to talk to her.
I don't think there should be any harm in that. No harm at all. We'll bring in your Aunt Amy, Myles. Especially since all you want to do is talk.
Robert, vi kan få lite trubbel här.
Det är ingen problem, jag är beväpnad samt jag har motgiften nästan det skulle bli problemer.
Det är bra.
Myles, how are you feeling?
What happened to your arm?
Oh, it's nothing to be concerned about. I had a vaccination.
A vaccination?
For protection against this substance you've come in contact with to keep it from spreading any further. I'm fine. We're worried about you, Myles.
He gave you the vaccination?
There's no reason for you to fear the vaccination, Myles. The doctor and I have had it. There's going to be a public mandate.
I'm one of 24 people.
24, yes.
There's going to be many, many more. Thousands, maybe.
But the good news is it can be treated. I can't imagine why you'd be refusing to take the antibiotic.
Omniscience. Have you ever desired omniscience? Have you ever wanted to be all-knowing?
What?
Let him continue, Mrs. Goddard.
Actually, I'd like to ask the two of you. Have you ever desired omniscience?
I would think if you had omniscience, you'd also want to have omnipotence.
Maybe they're one and the same. Like a new weaponry to fight our new enemy. The new enemy. It's no different from the old enemy. It's always been the same enemy. The unknown. When the real fear was the unknown becoming common knowledge.
From the way you're speaking, it sounds like you clearly clearly have some sort of knowledge that you'd like to share.
Is that so, Myles?
I'm sure it's nothing of consequence, nothing that would affect anyone.
Everybody. But people's thoughts have been so twisted that they never take it seriously. But now they have to know.
Take all the time you need, Myles. But I want you to start from the very beginning and tell us exactly what they need to know.
We're all hearing about a new enemy. What if the true enemy were really in the disguise of a friend? People wouldn't feel the need to rebel, right? If they didn't think there was anything to rebel against?
What kind of enemy would be passing themselves off as a friend? The enemy we're facing is clearly not a friend.
What if they're just different prints, cut out from the same cloth, but all working towards the same goal? When you walk down the streets and you look at people, you know we're all different. But did any of us think about how different?
So your contention is that there are people among us who aren't what we think they are, working towards a common purpose, a common goal.
The whole idea is ridiculous, Myles. Please, just take the antibiotics so we can get back to normal activity.
Normal activity? What is normal activity? Couldn't an influx of knowledge from outside the world we know be considered normal activity? Doctor, wouldn't you say that it explains a lot of the mysteries that official history writes off?
Myles, I've worked for the government for over 20 years. There's never been any evidence that extraterrestrial life has existed.
I really think we should end this conversation.
Our sun is only one of some 100 billion stars in this galaxy. There are at least 1 million planets in our galaxy that could support life as we know it. Now, if you open up your mind for a minute and think about what that could mean for the entire universe.
Myles, too much has happened in too short a period of time. You can't expect us
And
to...
Amy, you raised me. You know everything there is to know about me. Have I ever, for 1 minute, given you any reason to doubt me? Well, then believe me now. As sure as God is my witness, I am not lying to you.
So, if we're understanding you, what you're saying is that there are people among us that for all intents and purposes resemble us, but are not.
It's the truth. If the word is going to spread, you have to accept that it's hysterically unbelievable. There's just no way around it.
I can't listen to another word of this.
Mrs. Goddard, please. Now, the last thing that we want to do is put Myles in the defense. We have to get to the bottom of the situation however we can. Not a single one of us is leaving here until we do. Now, I know it's difficult, but you have to cooperate, please. Now, I'm just assuming. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but just assuming there could be some validity.
Oh my God.
Validity? To what I'm saying?
How could these individuals adopt a human likeness for what would appear to be a millennium or longer?
They're brilliant. Their intelligence would stagger a genius. They know it's all an illusion we're living in. This third dimension. They've mastered sound. Sound turning matter into form. It's something like... Doctor, if you took a metal plate and put sand on it and vibrated it with different sounds, you'd see that the sand rearranges into different patterns. And with each change of sound, the pattern would change. Yet if you went back to the original sound, you'd get the original pattern. It's not a miracle. This is science, the laws of creation.
So our bodies, our physical bodies, are the result of sound resonating energy into form.
Yes. And if the mind is powerful enough to change the sound range of the body, it can move into a different form. Do you know how many frequencies of life there are? Sharing the same space right as we speak. It's like radio and television frequencies. We're tuned into the third dimension. This is our reality, our station. But there are others going on at the same time. And if you can move your dial or change your channel, you can connect with them. And it's from one of those stations or dimensions that this race has been controlling our world. And that's been the intention from the very beginning.
A takeover. A coup.
There are cameras in this room. Everything we're saying is being recorded. This is going to figure against us, Myles.
If these beings, as you say, were so superior, couldn't they accomplish their goal in one swift move? Wipe us out, in other words?
If you wanted to take over a world, Doctor, which would be more efficient? Forcing your presence on people? Or controlling the way they think?
The way they think?
When you control the way people think, you control them.
I want you to know. I realize this is not my nephew talking. It isn't him. It isn't real.
It's not real. Everything that was really turned into a lie, and every lie they made a reality.
The time, Myles, it would take for them to change the thought processes of an entire world would far outlast the lives of those who wanted to do it. What benefit would it serve them when they'd never lived long enough to see the results?
No such thing as death. They know that. Consciousness is energy, and it always finds a new form. That's another thing they've made us fear. Our own mortality. And the human race has been dying a little bit every day since. They wear their bodies like a genetic overcoat. When it wears out, they strip it off, occupy a new one, and advance the agenda into future generations. It's been the same key players all throughout history. One swift move, Doctor? Far from it. Time may be our enemy, but it's their best friend, and they know how to use it.
Perhaps what we ought to hear more about is what you call the agenda. Perhaps you ought to fill us in on just what this agenda is and how it works.
They built the pyramid.
The pyramid?
Once you look like humanity and get people believing you are humanity, you build your pyramid of power. And that goes up to the top levels of society. Government, law enforcement, medicine, media, entertainment, military. But those levels will only be reached by certain individuals, because those are the areas that influence everything. When you control the areas of influence at the top levels, you control everything underneath. You establish a norm, a convention, and the agenda gets started. You paint the picture of purity, innocence, and then like a razor, you slice up that picture with division, conflict. Conflicts that they've made so normal, so part of everyday living that you don't even question them.
Such as?
Why can't he understand what we're saying? Language. Splitting the world up into different tongues. Perfect way to keep people from communicating. Politics. Left wing, right wing. when both wings are part of the same bird? Religion. As long as there's a God to pray to, there's a God to die for. And the most obvious one of them all, money. You want the surefire, hell-raising devil? You put $1 to be made in front of anybody and just watch what happens. And then to top it all off, they give us a lone, single enemy that threatens all we ever held sacred. They show us hideous, unthinkable events. They let us see what can happen if we let the enemy get a foothold. And that justifies the war. Only the same animals that gave us the war are the same ones who are going to offer the Savior the New Deal for the New World, which does nothing but advance the agenda into future generations. While tens of thousands have died, never knowing what they gave their lives for. These are the emotions they want in our world. They feed off them. They put the drugs and alcohol here to numb the pain. And over centuries, when you keep changing the way people think, eventually they're not going to be aware. And they'll just give in, praising, worshipping, surrendering to the monsters. They'll never know what this place was meant to be. That this world was supposed to be a paradise. Pure love. Just to experience each other. But that's the one frequency they can't access. It's the only way we could have fought them. No conflict. No division. Pure love. But that's what they took from us. Pure love.
So, for a millennium, the human race has been deceived and terrified into what you call servitude by beings that are not human.
But like any construction, even a pyramid, there's a date in which you build and a period of completion.
There's a change in the magnetic grid. Soon they won't be able to manipulate sound. Soon they'll be exposed for who they are. That's why they're in such a rush. That's why they're having all these drives.
Drives?
They need the blood. They need the blood to hold form in this dimension.
Dear God.
That's why they started the terror. They needed a threat so deadly that it would require a global state of emergency where they could take over your home, your transport, your energy. This is what's happening now.
Yes, Colonel. National Guard troops have been stationed at every airport, railroad depot, and bus terminal. They've been added to the major highways, suburban junctions, and residential streets.
Moratorium on humanity. They've done it before. First with Mars, now with us. And once they've finished here, they'll be heading for another planet. A place called Earth.
Global state of emergency!
Only the plan backfired with a contingency they didn't plan on.
What are you talking about? There's the antibiotic. They have the antibiotic for the Liresept. You don't want to take it.
The antibiotic is the Liresept! It's gonna keep you from tuning in. Like the vaccination. The only thing wrong with me is I have an awakening of consciousness. I see what's going on. It's all of you they're worried about. I'm gonna be here for the rest of my days.
You aren't going to be here for the rest of your days. They're protecting you. They want to help you.
Tell Aunt Amy where we are, Doctor.
I know perfectly well, Myles. This is a hospital.
No, Mrs. Goddard. It's a concentration camp.
Today it's me. But soon it's going to be every single one of us. And we let it happen. We let it happen. And now there's nothing we can do. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. You won. You won. You won.
Pure love. Cut it and print.
Are there cameras in your room? Go. Get out of here. Take 5.
Okay.
Come here. Give me some social relevance.
How do you think it'll be received?
No different than any other project referred to as science fiction, fantasy, metaphysical exploration. Certainly not as a test of human reaction, just in case there were an awakening of consciousness to the chance that any of this could be true.
Which, of course, it isn't.
Of course. All an illusion. I'll keep the cameras turning. You stay in character with the rest of the cast. And someday, very soon, the work will pay off. We'll just sit back and watch a whole new world open up for us. For us. And for everyone around us.
Whole new world.
And that is an order.
If a mask has so efficiently become the standard, the period, might it ever be seen as the question mark it really is? The same can be asked of the truth. If it violated natural law and contradicted a lifetime of teaching, how would it be received? As fact or fiction? Perhaps the answer is subjective, as we create our own reality, be it out of truth or illusion. But for now, what you have seen is an exercise in imagination, a film called Moratorium, the illusion of sound resonating energy into form, in its new world premiere, in the realm of never.